record. Today's date is June 22nd, 2025. We're having an Israeli Palestinian Confederation government simulation. We are proposing a common federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine to make peace based on a common principle of democracy with a constitution equal to the Palestinians and the Israelis, with equal power, equal political power, and based on separating from the Israeli and the Palestinian government. We are proposing an independent and separate government, a federal government for the entire area of Israel, Palestine, that would live in peace based on equal representation. We are not proposing the dismantlement of the Israeli or the Palestinian government. We are proposing a separate and independent federal government for the entire people that live in Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel. Our website is ipconfederation.org. You can read the Constitution of the federal government, how it will be created, a democracy with 3 branches, legislative branch with 300 parliament members, executive branch with president and vice president, 1 Palestinian, 1 Israeli, and a judicial branch, Palestinians and Israelis together. The Constitution is available in Arabic, English, and Hebrew, all on our website. You can reach me at josephavisar@gmail.com. Our guest today is Roni Keidar. Roni Keidar is a British-born Israeli peace activist, author, and a longtime resident of Moshav Netiv HaAsara, an agricultural village located just a few hundred meters from the Gaza border. Her life and work reflect a deep commitment to coexistence and dialogue between Israelis and Palestinians, shaped by decades of personal experience in one of the region's most volatile areas. Born in London, Keidar immigrated to Israel with her family in 1951. She later married Ovadia Keidar, an Egyptian-born Jew, and together they became early settlers in northern Sinai following the 1967 Six-Day War. In 1982, after a peace treaty between Israel and Egypt, they relocated to Netiv HaAsara, a community established by families evacuated from Sinai. Keidar's perspective on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was profoundly shaped during the mid-1980s when she and her family lived in Egypt for 4 years. There she encountered accounts of the Nakba, the mass displacement of Palestinians in 1947 and 1948, which challenged her understanding of the region's history and deepened her empathy for the Palestinian experience. As a member of Other Voice, a grassroots organization of Israelis advocating for dialogue with Palestinians in Gaza, Keidar has long worked to bridge divides. She has organized cross-border initiatives, including virtual workshops connecting Israeli and Gazan youth through music and drama. These efforts, however, have faced setbacks. For instance, some participants were detained by Hamas, leading to the cancellation of the workshops. In her memoirs, On the Border of Hope, Keidar recounts her life journey from her upbringing in London to her experience living near the Gaza border. The book offers insights into the complexities of life in a conflict zone and underscores her unwavering belief in the possibility of peaceful coexistence. Despite personal losses, including the death of friends and neighbors during the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack on her village, Keidar remains steadfast advocate for peace. She continues to speak out, emphasizing the need for mutual recognition and coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians. I visited Roni Keidar and her husband, who is a great artist, last month. I would like to note that we are inviting people with all points of views, regardless of whether they are pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinians. We are challenging everyone to discuss the idea of a federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine. Our next guest on July 6th will be Elazar Barkan. He's a professor of international and public affairs at Columbia University and a director of both the Human Rights and Humanitarian Policy concentration at SIPA and the Institute for the Study of Human Rights, ISHR. On July 20th, we will have Nimat Shama. She's a West Bank-based Palestinian voice for dialogue, justice, and hope. On August 17, we will have another combined legislative effort where all the participants will discuss possible legislation for the federal government that would be acceptable to both the Palestinian and the Israeli governments. On August 31st, we will have Roni Keidar Kashi. She's an anti-Zionist Israeli of Iraqi descent. We are proposing a federal government, and in this simulation, we are demonstrating how the federal government will be able to thread the needle, meaning to pass legislation that will be acceptable to both the Palestinians and the Israeli governments. More accurately, that they will not be able to reject, those governments will not be able to reject a reasonable legislation to benefit their people. In reality, we are not proposing policies for the federal government. We are proposing a system of government that will develop its own policies when Palestinians and Israelis sitting as equal in the parliament will have to create legislation that will be acceptable to the entire area and will protect and give peace to Palestinians and Israelis together. Nasir is not going to be here with us today. So when you have questions, and we encourage questions, please ask them during the simulation. This is a short movie that explains what the vision of the IPC is. It's about 2 minutes long.
The conflict between Israelis and Palestinians has endured for generations. And instead of time healing the wounds, it's only caused the anger to fester and the violence to grow. But what if there was a way to alleviate the tension? Something that may not outright solve every problem, but at least create a forum that encourages a peaceful compromise. Welcome to the Israeli Palestinian Confederation, a common third government between the Israeli and Palestinian citizens, specifically designed to foster peace, tolerance, and economic prosperity between the two nations. Here's how it works. First off, both Israel and Palestine will keep their respective governments. Israel's Knesset and the Palestinian National Authority will remain unchanged. The Israeli Palestinian Confederation, IPC, will be a third entity acting as a unifying agent between the two. The IPC will comprise 300 parliament members elected from 300 districts in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Above them will preside a president and vice president, one Israeli and one Palestinian. In order for the IPC to pass a law, it will require a 55% majority from its Israeli representatives, as well as a 55% majority from its Palestinian representatives, thereby preventing either side from monopolizing the legislature. Of course, the IPC won't undermine the political power of either the Israeli or the Palestinian government. At any time, Israel or Palestine may veto a law passed by the IPC. If neither side vetoes, the law is passed. And the two nations are another step closer to resolution. Please help us make this a reality. The Israeli Palestinian Confederation. We might speak different languages, but we all mean the same thing.
So we are actually simulating what's in that short movie. Before we start the simulation, I would like to take a survey, which we will compare to a survey that we will take at the end of the simulation. At this time, please vote. Do you support a common federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine? Five more seconds to vote, please. We have a lot on our plate, so we're trying to move fast. Okay, publish the vote. 32 out of 34. By the way, Dan and I, and we are not voting. We're not capable. We cannot vote. So 32 out of 34, 94% voted yes. 2 out of 34 voted no, and that's 6%. Hopefully, we will be able to convert the two to a yes, and none of the yes vote will change their mind by the end of the simulation. Confederation and federal governments exist worldwide to address specific conflicts. Some governments refer to themselves as federal governments, while others use the term confederation. Definitions are not fixed and evolve with changing realities. In the context of Israel-Palestine, the IPC defines confederation and federation as a shared government for the people of Israel and Palestine, guided by democratic principles outlined in the IPC Constitution, which you can find at ipconfederation.org. So this is the heart of the simulation. This is what we need to assume in order to conduct a proper simulation. By the way, this is not a lecture. This is a simulation. So we have to make certain assumptions in order to conduct the simulation. The first assumption is that we were able to obtain major funding to advertise the idea of a federal government to the people of Israel and Palestine, and to create a platform for the people of Israel and Palestine to vote in 300 parliamentary districts. So if you live in Israel or Palestine, you will be able to vote using your phone, using your computer, for your parliament member and for your president and vice president. You will also be able to participate in your government's election, meaning if you're Israeli, you can vote for the Israeli government. And if you're Palestinian, you can vote for the Palestinian government. But those are separate entities. They will conduct their own election. The first part of the assumption today is that we were able to have a platform, and we are able to give the Israeli and the Palestinians the ability to vote and explain to them the benefit of a federal government, and be able to connect them, each Palestinian and Israeli, to their parliament candidates, and for them to vote for whoever they feel is best for their district. The second part of the assumption is that we gave 14 million people the exclusion of children, 14 million people, meaning the people in Israel, Palestine, the right to vote, including Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. You will also have to assume in this simulation, so we are conducting the event today as if these assumptions have become a reality, that 5 million people have voted, that 3 million Palestinians voted, and 2 million Israelis voted. You will have to assume that the president received 1.5 million votes, and the vice president received 1.3 million votes. For purposes of the assumption and the simulation, please assume that me, Joseph, was elected as president. It makes it easier for me to conduct the simulation. So that you know, I never intend to run as president. I'm not even qualified under the Constitution because I am not a resident of either Israel or Palestine. I'm a citizen, but not a resident. So I'm not qualified under the Constitution. But for the purpose of the simulation, please assume that we had 1.5 million vote for Joseph and 1.3 million vote for the Palestinian lady, and we will rotate in 2 years. You will also have to assume that 300 parliament members were elected in 300 districts. Some of the districts are strictly Palestinian, some of them are strictly Israelis, and many of the districts would be Palestinians and Israelis together. A Palestinian could vote for an Israeli could vote for Palestinian in the districts that are mixed, and for the president and vice president. And I will ask each one of you to be a parliament member in this simulation. And each one of you will have to assume that he or she represents 47,000 people, either Israelis or Palestinian or in a mixed district. So before I go to Roni and ask for her comments or opinion, does anyone have any questions regarding these assumptions? Please speak up. Do you have any questions regarding these assumptions? All right. Hearing no questions, let's go to Roni. Roni, would you be so kind to give us your opinion or questions regarding these assumptions?
I don't have any questions. I quite understand them. And I have no remarks. I think this is, it looks as if it can work.
Okay. Do you think that if we are able to achieve major funding and create this system, that we can actually get 5 million people to vote, 3 million Palestinians and 2 million Israelis?
Maybe you'll call it wishful thinking, but I believe we can.
Okay, thank you. So from now on, we are conducting this event today as if these assumptions have become a reality. And from now on, I am going to assume that I am the president of the whole area of Israel, Palestine. So that, let me show you the area. This is the entire area of Israel, Palestine. I am the president of this whole area, was elected by 1.5 million votes. By the way, Roni lives in this area right between Gaza, where you see the green and the brown, this area right here. She resides right here. And I'm going to be asking all of you, with the exception of those that will be the Prime Minister of Israel and the Prime Minister and the President of Palestine, to act as either Israeli or Palestinian parliament members. Please designate yourself at this time if you are a Palestinian parliament member or Israeli parliament member, and tell us what, and keep in mind what area you represent. You represent an area in Palestine or an area in Israel or a mixed area. Just remain intellectually honest throughout the simulation. And from now on, you are acting as if you are a parliament member in that district. I am acting as if I am the president of the whole area. Again, the purpose of this is to show how a federal government could make peace. All right, 5 more seconds for you to make a decision. Are you a Palestinian or Israeli? By the way, Roni, you can also choose to be either Palestinian or Israeli parliament member, and you can vote. Okay, 5 more seconds for you to make your decision. We have, please publish the votes. We have 14 Palestinian parliament members, and we have 13 Israeli parliament members. That's a good mix. So please remain intellectually honest, and you will be able to vote for legislation as a Palestinian parliament member, as an Israeli parliament member, and remain loyal to your district. You represent your district. You don't represent yourself anymore. You represent your district. We also have, for the purpose of this simulation, I asked Jeff Warner to be the Prime Minister of Israel. Jeff, could you say?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so you are the Prime Minister of Israel. I need someone to act as the President of Palestine. Do we have someone who is willing to be the President of Palestine in this simulation? Someone to act as President of Palestine. Please raise your voice or your hand. Roni, are you willing to be the President of Palestine? Do I have a volunteer to be
just
the
raised my hand.
Evelyn? Evelyn, are you willing to be the President of Palestine?
I am.
Terrific. Okay. So now, Evelyn and Jeff, you cannot vote. You are not a parliament member. You are in a different government. You have the veto power, but you do not have the right to vote. So please refrain from voting in the when we present legislation. All right. First, so now that we have a government, we have a president, we have a parliament, we need the parliament to ratify the Constitution. All the parliament members, Palestinians and Israelis, will have to ratify the Constitution. If you do not ratify the Constitution, you are expelled from the parliament. You're still a citizen of Israel or Palestine, but you are expelled from the parliament. Libby, would you be so kind as to read the Constitution?
We believe that Palestinians and Israelis are entitled to equal rights under the law and guaranteed human rights and freedom. The Israeli Palestinian Confederation does not intend to supersede or supplant the Palestinian or Israeli governments, nor to abrogate or undermine any agreements between those governments. We recognize the need to work with the Israeli and Palestinian governments. Our purpose is to resolve conflicts and to expand the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis in a fair and equitable manner. We believe in equal rights under the law, guaranteed human rights, and freedom for all. We voluntarily give the legislatures and the governments of Israel and Palestine veto power over legislation we pass relating to the domain of control of those governments. We believe in the separation of power between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. We believe in the creation of a permanent secular government for all the people residing in Israel and Palestine. We believe in having a separate judicial branch relating to IPC legislation with Israeli and Palestinian judges, with a system to avoid biased decisions based on nationality.
So we are the government of the whole area. We are a legitimate government, the only legitimate government elected in the area of Israel, Palestine. We do not, however, intend to supersede or supplant or undermine the Israeli or the Palestinian government. In fact, once we pass legislation, we give them a veto power over the legislation if the legislation is violating their sovereignty, either the Israeli or the Palestinian sovereignty. Before we go to Roni and ask her for her opinion or questions, does anyone have any questions regarding the Constitution? Speak up if you have any questions.
Yeah, hi, Joseph.
Hi, Rob.
Wanted to check on the second last bullet. I've never asked this before, but does that envisage a future government that replaces the existing two governments of Palestine and Israel, or does that refer to this, the IPC?
We do not intend to supersede or abrogate the existing governments. So I'm not sure what's your question.
Now, I'm referring to the second last bullet where it said,
Okay. Let me read it.
Yeah.
We believe in the creation of a permanent secular government for all the people residing in Israel and Palestine. So what's the question?
the question is, are you referring there to the IPC or to some future government that effectively replaces all existing political governments?
We are referring to the IPC.
Okay.
This is the
All right.
constitution of the IPC.
Okay.
We see ourselves as we are the government of the entire area.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is it
Yeah,
going
hi.
to be clear what the powers of the two different states are and what the powers are of the federal government?
The federal government power, well, first of all, the federal government gets its power from the people. We have the legitimacy from the people that elected us. Our power is whatever legislation we pass that does not violate the sovereignty of the Israeli or the Palestinian government. We know if we violate their sovereignty, once they veto our legislation. If they do not veto our legislation, then we do not violate their sovereignty, and our laws are the laws of the entire area of Israel, Palestine. So we are just like another government, democracy for the entire area, but we are taking into consideration the existence of other powers in the area, which are the Israeli and the Palestinian governments. And you'll see how it works. Any other questions? All right, hearing no other questions, let's go to Roni. Roni, could you give us your take on this Constitution?
Once again, I have gone over the Constitution several times and read it through. It sounds to me fine. I don't have any special remarks at all. Again,
Okay.
very important, of course, that whatever decisions the federal government comes up with, we do not undermine. I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't. Maybe you can, of what kind of legislation we might give that they might find that they were undermining them. Can you think of something?
Oh, plenty. If we pass legislation that says that we nullified the idea of a Jewish state, then that undermines the Israeli government. The Israeli government wants a Jewish state. If we pass legislation that says that we are limiting the number of immigrants into the area,
Okay.
that will undermine the Israeli government. If we say that we are prohibiting the right of return to Palestinians, that would undermine the Palestinian. They would certainly.
Yes. I'm with you. Thank you very much. So it's
All
fine.
right. Now, so that to clarify, you read the whole Constitution, not just this.
Yes,
short-
yes, I did go over it several times. Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Let's have the Palestinian parliament members please ratify the Constitution. Palestinian parliament members, all of you need to ratify it. Otherwise, you're expelled from the parliament. And you will not be able to vote. All democratic governments require their parliament members to ratify the Constitution or to accept the Constitution, including our government. Please publish the vote. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members voted to ratify the Constitution. Let's have the Israeli parliament members please ratify the Constitution. Israeli parliament member, sorry. Please ratify the Constitution. Okay, publish the votes. All Israeli parliament members accepted the Constitution. That means we now have a constitution. We have a government. We have a president. We have parliament members. This is a momentous occasion in the history of the Middle East, in the entire history of the Middle East. It's never been done before. The votes that we had to elect the parliament, to elect the president in the entire area in Israel, Palestine, created a federal government, secular government, and it has never been done in the history of humanity. This momentous occasion undermines the existing government's use of fear and hate to justify their action, because that's what they are doing. They are using fear and hate to divide us and to justify their actions. This momentous occasion removes the collective stigma against Israelis and Palestinians that we are incapable of living in a democracy, incapable of creating a democracy. When I showed you the assumptions, no one disagreed with these assumptions. No one disagreed that these are a possibility. And now that we have the election and we have people voting and electing a government, the collective stigma has been removed. It gives the parliament members, you, the parliament members, and me, the president, huge political power to compel the governments of the world and organizations to contribute to our success. And it gives the Israelis and the Palestinians new self-image and proves that Israelis and Palestinians are not a monolithic society, because not all Palestinians and all Israelis voted. So many Palestinians and Israelis voted in the exact same way. We are not a monolithic society. All right, let's go to our first order of legislative business, and that's granting a veto power to the separate governments. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislative proposal?
The Confederation is the government of the entire population of Israel and Palestine from the river to the sea. We recognize the Palestinian and Israeli governments and are seeking their cooperation to implement our vision for peace by giving them a veto. We will do our utmost to satisfy the essential needs of each government. We are pleading with the Palestinian and Israeli public to understand that while we would like to pass the best legislation possible to improve their lives, under these constraints, a perfect legislation is not possible. We hereby bestow a veto power relating to legislation affecting sovereignty to the following: the government of Israel on issues in which it is indispensable, the Palestinian government on issues in which it is indispensable. In the event of changes in the entirety of the Israeli or Palestinian governments, this legislation may be amended or repealed subject to the IPC Constitution. The Parliament will decide on indispensability. Vetoes may be bestowed individually or collectively.
All right. So what's the difference between dispensable government and indispensable government? We give a veto power to the Israeli and the Palestinian governments only if they are indispensable. In other words, if they can prevent us from implementing the legislation, they are indispensable. So if we pass legislation regarding the use of land, police force, or removal of the wall, they are indispensable and they get a veto power. But if we pass legislation relating to our own budget or ratifying our constitution or appointing IPC ministers, they are dispensable. They do not get a veto power. We give them a veto power for several reasons. First is because the veto provides a safety net to both sides, meaning the governments of both sides and the people of both sides. And therefore, it increases the likelihood of Israelis and Palestinian participation in the election and for running for parliament. It decreases the Israeli and Palestinian government's opposition because they have a veto power. Therefore, they cannot have a legal or rational objection to our government. It removes any claims that we are a subversive or that we intend to undermine those governments, and it gives legal protection to the candidates because neither the Israeli nor the Palestinian governments could attempt to harm legally our candidates because our candidates accept the Constitution and gives a veto power to the Israeli and the Palestinian governments, and it compels our government, the IPC government, to thread the needle, meaning to pass legislation that cannot be objectionable to the Israeli and the Palestinian government, and it creates a platform for negotiations with a deadline. Before we vote on the, sorry, does anyone have any questions? Sorry.
I have a question about,
Yeah, hi,
I can't
Margaret.
find it here in the word. Hey, the individual or collective, could you review that?
In the event it changes, or
Bestowed, the Parliament will decide on indispensability. Vetoes may be bestowed individually or collectively.
right. So that means
What does that mean?
that if a government one government is dispensable and one government is indispensable, we have the right to give a veto power to the one that we think is indispensable. In other words, we don't have to automatically give both sides a veto power if one side is not relevant.
Thank you. I understand.
Sure. Any other questions? All right. Hearing no questions, let's go to Roni. Roni, can you give us your take on this legislation that we are about to pass? Roni.
Again.
Ronnie is on mute.
No,
You need to
I've
unmute.
paused it. No, what I'm saying is I have no special remarks on these vetoes. No.
Okay. You are an Israeli citizen, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just so that clarify. All right, let's take a vote. Palestinian parliament members, please vote on this legislation. By the way, the Israeli and the Palestinian government do not have a veto power on this legislation to give them a veto power. All right. 2 more seconds to vote. Publish the vote. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. We need 55%. We have 100%. Actually, yeah, let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please vote. Publish the vote. Also, 100% of the Israeli parliament members. Congratulations. We have agreed on who to give a veto power and under what circumstances. Anytime you have a question, just ask me. So that it's clear, we are presenting legislation, but please understand that this simulation is making the assumption that the parliament has already deliberated on the legislation, because we need to move fast and we can't just, in fact, we're going to have on August 17, a parliament deliberating, but please assume that we already deliberated on these legislation. All right, let's go to our first order of business regarding the current event, make peace with Iran, Lebanon, Yemen, and Syria. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislation?
We are the parliament members of the Confederation Government of Israel Palestine. We are the only legitimate government in the region. Our people have experienced wars and violence for over 100 years. The Israeli and Palestinian governments have failed to bring peace to the people in Israel and Palestine. Therefore, we are taking the initiative to protect all the people in Israel, Palestine, and provide them with peace. To achieve this, we are forming our own delegations to directly meet with the authorities in Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Iran for the purpose of making peace in the region. Our intention is to demand that all these governments and entities agree to cease violence and threats against each other and work towards a lasting peace, and to work as a facilitator and promoter of peace between these governments. Our goal is to be fair and objective, and to expose any governments or entities that pose a threat to our people.
So literally, as we speak, the country of Israel, Iran, Lebanon, and Yemen, not so much with Syria as far as we know, are bombing each other. Literally, houses, buildings are being destroyed, both in Israel, Palestine, and in those countries mentioned above. Literally, as we speak. We are the government of the entire area. It doesn't matter to us the religion of the people that are being killed or injured or destroyed. We want to protect our people, the people of Israel and Palestine, and for that matter, the people in Iran, Lebanon, Yemen, and Syria. We want peace. Our governments have failed to give us peace. We want to get to the bottom of this. We want to protect our people. I am the president of the whole area. I am not an Israeli president or Palestinian president. I am the president of the whole area, and I want my people protected. And we want to find out what's really going on between those governments and what is the best way to resolve the conflict. And we want to set up our own delegations to travel to all these countries and speak to them as Christian, Muslim, and Jews, to all these governments, including the Israeli and the Palestinian governments. We are not giving a veto power to the Israeli and the Palestinian governments because they are dispensable. We can do this without giving them a veto power. But still, we would like them to participate. Does anyone have any question regarding this legislation?
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah, hi, Gretchen.
Hi, sorry. So, okay, I understand that they aren't going to get a veto power on this legislation, but in terms of like what is going to be done to make the peace, like that, they could veto whatever the conditions are for that.
Yeah, we haven't made any substantive legislation. We just want.
Okay, just want to have the ability to.
Yeah, we just want to
Okay.
see what's going on. What is the truth here? Who is? How do we? What is the truth? What is the history? What are they claiming? And how? What is the best way to move forward into peace? We do not. That's what we're trying to do. That's why they
Okay.
don't have a veto power.
Okay, got it.
Any other question?
Me too. I have a small question. Hello. So
Yeah,
you
hi.
say you want to make peace, but why should these governments listen to you?
We are just going to offer them that we are there to travel into their country. It would be up to them to decide whether they want to listen to us or not. We will make our own
It is already
conclusion.
forbidden for Israeli citizens to travel to most of these countries and to Iranian citizens to travel to Israel. So
Well, that may be a
just
technical
illegal.
difficulty, but we will work with those governments to remove those technical difficulties, but we want to meet with them. If they refuse to meet with us, then we have no other choice. But hopefully we will, and I think you're right. I wanted to have someone here from those countries as simulating as the Iran president, the Lebanon, Yemen, and Syria, and to ask them, are you going to refuse to allow us to come and talk to your government? We are Christian, Muslim, and Jews, and we want to travel to your country and find out what's going on. Any other question?
I think this is my first time here and I came a little bit late. Is this assuming that all the issues between Israelis and Palestinians have been resolved and that they're able to work together, representing one common front?
No, we are not assuming anything. Each time we do the simulation, we're starting from scratch. And
Okay.
we are dealing with we usually try to deal with the most urgent matter or with a matter that we feel would help us move into the future. Because of the current fighting that is going on, me as the president, I have introduced this legislation in order to try to reach peace as soon as possible. That's Any other question?
Yes, Joseph. Are we meant to assume that the Israeli attack on Iran on the 13th of June did not happen, and that the US attack on Iran last night did not happen?
No, we are June 22nd. We are assuming the reality as it happens. We are on June 22nd. I am proposing this legislation today. We are not assuming that reality is not real. We are assuming that we are in a real world. Yes.
Well, then I'd say it's like what Roni said, our kind guest. She said wishful thinking, because, there is such a thing as reality, and it requires a stand, etc., etc. Well, okay, we'll continue the
Okay, wishful thinking or not. Are you an Israeli or Palestinian parliament member?
Palestinian, Joseph. It's Olivia. I'm Palestinian.
Okay. Well, yeah, I know, but I didn't know what you chose. Are you going to vote against this?
Well, I think I just won't vote, Joseph, because there's a limit to what I can.
Okay, so you're not going to vote.
I won't vote on this one. Okay, we'll move on. Yeah. Well,
Are
I'll
you
move on.
are you going to vote against this legislation as a Palestinian parliament member?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Olivia, I am the president. I am going to put pressure on you as the Palestinian parliament member to vote in favor of this legislation, because what district do you represent? What area do you represent?
I represent Nazareth.
Okay. Do you know that Nazareth have been subjected to missile falling on that city?
Oh, I'm aware of what's been happening for
Okay,
many months.
so
many
you
years.
don't want to make peace? You
I
don't.
certainly do want to make peace. I do.
Okay, so
I do
you're
want to
voting
make peace.
against yourself, going to talk to Iran, and to the government of Israel to make peace? What's your logic here? I'm trying to understand your logic for voting against this legislation. All
I
right.
think it would take too long for me to explain, and
Okay.
I'd be stealing your
All right.
time.
Okay. Let's have the Palestinian parliament members please vote on this legislation. Palestinian parliament members. We need 55% of the Palestinian parliament members. The president of the prime minister of Israel and the president of Palestine cannot vote. Publish the vote. 93% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Let's go to Israeli parliament members. Israeli parliament members, please vote. Israeli parliament members, we need 55%. Please vote. Publish the vote. 93% of the Israeli parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. So let's go to the relevant prime minister here is the Israeli prime minister. Mr. Prime Minister of Israel, are you willing to have our delegation come and talk to you and find out what is the problem between your government and the Iranian government, and what is the best way to make peace?
The government of Israel welcomes the efforts of the IPC to help us diplomatically end the imminent direct threat from Iran's nuclear program, which is about to have a bomb within weeks. So Israel welcomes the IPC effort, and we do not vote this. Until then, though, Israel reserves the right to continue trying to eliminate that threat from Iran militarily.
All right. Mr. Prime Minister, if we go to Iran and the Iranian government says to us that they never had the intention of building nuclear weapons, and that your government is not telling the truth, will you be willing to give us the proof that you have, to show us the proof that you have to demonstrate that Iran, in fact, intends to build nuclear weapons?
The government of Israel is not going to negotiate publicly about this issue, but we welcome your efforts. We will work with you and show you exactly the information that we do have that leads us to believe that, so that we know that there is an imminent direct threat from an Iranian nuclear weapon.
All right. So if we go to Iran and they said that they are willing to dismantle their nuclear efforts, as long as Israel agrees to do the same, would you be open to that suggestion?
The government of Israel can't negotiate this kind of information, this kind of stuff publicly.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding this legislation before we go to Ronnie?
Yes, maybe I don't know if I can ask again the same question, but I still don't understand. You didn't speak about Iraq in this list. Iraq is also a country that has the legislation, an anti-normalization legislation, where any contact between any Iraqi citizen and anything related with Israel is punishable by death penalty. And Iraq was a country that was invaded 20 years ago by the United States, especially with one of the goals was to favorize the normalization with Israel. So this legislation, I think, is just a normalization attempt to try to normalize Israel in the region. And that's why I think it's not at the time being. There's no point of doing of agreeing with this. It would have been made possible with Abraham Accord, but not now.
Mustaf, what are you a Palestinian or Israeli parliament member?
I mean, not in neither, because this.
All right, so if you are neither, you have not been elected to represent the people of Israel and Palestine. We are the parliament. We have been elected by the people of Israel and
I'm an Iranian parliament. I'm from the parliament of Iran.
Okay.
So as Iranian, we reject any contact with this entity.
Okay, good. So you're the parliament of Iran.
Yes.
Will you be willing to have our delegation that is made with Christian, Muslim, and Jews to travel to your country and to speak to you to find what are your issues with Israel, to tell us exactly what bothers you, and to have us ask you questions in a fair and honest way, and in the same way that we are doing with the country of Israel.
No, you cannot travel to the country. The visa application will be rejected. And I think you know that. So if you are a citizen of Israel, you cannot enter the country. And the law is very clear since 1979.
Okay, so
we can have contact, but you cannot enter the country because that would require a change in legislation. And the elements that you propose in this plan do not justify to change the law at this point.
Will you be willing then to travel to Switzerland to meet with us in Switzerland to discuss the issues that we are raising?
Yes, but this is already happening. But
I'm not asking if it's happening or not. You're a parliament member in Iran. You are part of the government of Iran. We are the government of Israel, Palestine, the whole area. We want to make peace. Will you be willing to meet with us in a neutral country to discuss openly and to be open to questions by us the same way that we ask the Israeli government questions?
It depends on the specific plan that you have to propose. If it's just meeting for meeting, that's not worth the trip. So once you put forth a specific plan of your request for Iran, then it will be discussed.
We are not putting any plan. We just
so that's why I'm answering. There is no point to have a meeting if there is no agenda to this meeting. That's my answer.
The agenda is to explore the facts.
There's nothing to explore. The facts are well known. So either you push a clear proposition and you take some skin in the game, or if it's just meeting for facts, a parliament will not waste his time for this.
All right. So you want us to create a peace plan without knowing the facts. That's no,
the facts are well known. I think everybody agrees with the facts. I think now, as we see in the recent development,
we do not agree or disagree with the facts. We want to know the facts. That's why we want to have.
But why do you need to meet? Why do you need to meet an Iranian official? Because you want an official meeting. Why do you need an official meeting to know the facts? You can find the facts on internet.
Well,
because you want a recognition. I will answer this question because you want a recognition.
We do not feel,
and you will not get it.
As the president of Israel Palestine, I believe that when we meet in person, and open, and when you're open to questions, then things will open up that are not necessarily available on the internet. And we want to make peace in an honest way with the Palestinians and the Israelis and the Iranian people.
But an
So
Iranian
think about that.
parliamentary is not qualified to disclose classified information, because maybe that's what you want. Maybe you want this Iranian parliament to disclose classified information in Iran. And as you might know, there's a lot of classified information in Iran now for security reasons.
Oh,
So
all right,
that's
thank
why
you.
the
Thank you.
issues. Just to
Yes,
have this
thank you.
meeting.
All right, let's go to Roni. Roni, could you give us your take on this legislation?
Well, first of all, I want to refer to when I said right at the beginning that it all looks like wishful thinking, but I do believe in this. I think what we are doing now, we are trying to provide a better future for us all living in this region. And in order to do so, we will need the cooperation of our neighboring countries as well. Now, I think the fact that we are coming as an Israeli Palestinian government, an Israeli Palestinian Confederation, we are coming to try and make a new Middle East, let's say. This is all, we can always say that it's wishful thinking, but that's what we are wishing for. It's not a bad thing to have wishful thinking. I mean, this is what we're trying to work towards. And I think once we've formed this government and from the voting I can see here of Palestinians and Israelis, we're very much similar in both their votes, even when it's not 100%, it seems to be almost the same, if not the same. So this should be acceptable by our neighbors as well. And in order for us to all to have a much better future and not think of how we're going to continue to fight our neighbors, but together.
So wishful thinking is not a statement of skepticism.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
All right. Let me go to the President of Palestine, Mrs. President of Palestine. Will you be willing to help us connect with Iran to allow us to travel to Iran in order to have exploratory discussion?
I need to know, first of all, that Palestinians have equal rights, and I need to see it on the ground before we're willing to do that work.
So we passed the legislation, we passed the Constitution,
Mm-hmm.
and in the Constitution, we agreed to have equal rights. We have Palestinians and Israelis agree to have equal rights and to have a system of government that is equal to the Palestinians and the Israelis that gives you a veto power. Are you not yet convinced to help the people of, and by the way, Palestinian people have been harmed in this current violence. So you will not be willing to help us meet with Iran and other Arab countries in order to help the Palestinian and the Israeli people live in peace?
Well, the way I see it is the way I'm talking to the Prime Minister, that I see it is that the Palestinian issue is so dearly connected to the rest of the Middle East. So, for example, right of return is absolutely essential. And I do need to see that on the ground before we can engage in conversation in an honest way and supporting a peace process with Iran.
Mrs. President, you have never passed any legislation in your government to give the Palestinian the right of return. In fact, you were elected in an election that did not give the Palestinians who live outside Palestine the right to vote. So why would you be so stringent on us on issues that you yourself neglected for years?
I don't know what to say. I mean, that's something that we as a people, is Palestinians from the river to the sea and in the diaspora, feel so strongly about. And I want to work so badly. We want to work so badly with the Israeli people. We want to live in peace, but we know that there has to be justice for everybody from the river to the sea. And part of that is right of return, not only for Jews, but for Palestinians.
All right. I think we pretty much exhausted this issue. The purpose is to show how a federal government will have huge political power to put pressure on everyone in the area, including the governments of the area, the Israeli and the Palestinian governments, because we receive our power from the people of Palestine and Israel based on the election and the constitution and the system of government that we have created. So let's go to the next legislation. This legislation does give a veto power to the Israeli and the Palestinian governments. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislation? And then after this legislation, we will go to an open discussion.
Okay, so this is a declaration of governance, ceasefire, and reconstruction. 1. The destinies of the Israeli and Palestinian peoples are inseparably linked, and only a unified government can restore peace and stability. 2. The IPC declares an immediate and unconditional ceasefire and demands the immediate release and return of all political prisoners in both Israel and Palestine, on the understanding that persons responsible for war crimes on both sides shall be held accountable. And 3, the IPC launches a national reconstruction campaign to rebuild thousands of homes, roads, hospitals, civic institutions, and critical infrastructure, enabling the prompt return of displaced populations to their communities. 4, the IPC proclaims the restoration of law, order, and civil society as a national priority, recognizing that peace is not possible without justice and social stability. 5, the IPC shall retain authority over the Gaza Strip until a new and freely and fairly elected Palestinian government assumes power in Gaza in accordance with the democratic principles. 6, all legislative, executive, and judicial decisions related to Gaza shall be enacted by the full IPC government under the IPC Constitution. And 7, the IPC calls upon the international community, including the governments of Israel and Palestine, to provide a $50 billion grant to fund this urgent reconstruction and reconciliation effort. And something's blocking my,
The governments of
of Israel and Palestine are given a veto power over this legislation.
So this legislation is meant to help the people in Gaza and southern Israel to rebuild. And it hopefully we will be able to demonstrate how a federal government will be able to achieve what neither the Israeli nor the Palestinian governments have been able to achieve, and that is peace and prosperity to the people of in Gaza specifically and southern Israel, but really to the entire region. Does anyone have any questions regarding this legislation before we vote on it. Okay, hearing no questions. Basically, we are saying we would like to obtain $50 billion from all of the governments all over the world, regardless if they are pro-Israel or anti-Palestine or pro-Palestine or anti-Israel. We are the government of the entire area. We want to use the power that was given to us, the legitimate power that was given to us by the people of Israel and Palestine, to obtain $50 billion. And we are going to be using that money to help the people of Palestine and Israel. We're not asking that the money will be given to us. It's okay if it is given to the World Bank, who will help us. They're very good, the World Bank, at helping create huge infrastructure. So before we go to the government of Israel and Palestine to give them a veto power, let's go to Roni, and then we'll vote. And then the veto.
Can I ask a question? Before
Yes.
we vote, before we vote on this, would it be possible to see the declaration of governance as pertains to Israel? And then we vote respectively. I'm curious about point 5, and I'm wondering if there's a similar point made in the simulative declaration for Israel. Like, I'm just curious why. Like, this is sort of operating. This is operating as though the current Israeli administration.
Are you focusing on point 5?
Well, yeah, this is one that I think I'd be curious about. Is there a
Okay,
will the IPC retain authority over all Israeli territory until the newly freely and moderate or what have you government is elected?
I see. Okay. So, okay, I understand your thinking. You're saying basically as I understand it, you're saying, well, why are you claiming that there is no government in Gaza, but you are assuming that there is a government in Israel?
Or that the government in Israel, like a lot of this, I think some of what maybe members of the simulation exercise might be struggling with is sort of operating as though, all like the status quo in Israel at the moment, that, this is a really good peaceful government that I think is making some excellent decisions. We just need to work with the neighbors and, the erratic people on the other side. It's sort of giving off a little bit of that tone. So and point 5, and I'd be curious to see, is there anything to point 5 that relates to the Israeli government at the moment?
Okay, let's read point 5. The IPC shall retain authority over the Gaza Strip until a new freely and fairly elected Palestinian government assumes power in Gaza in accordance with democratic principle. So we are the government of the entire area of Israel and Palestine, meaning we are the only legitimate government in the entire area that includes Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel. We are, in this legislation, you are correct. We are making the assumption that there is no government functioning in Gaza. We are also making the assumption that the Israeli military is in control of Gaza, and we want to remove the Israeli military and to entice the Israeli government to remove their military. We are saying, okay, we will be the government in Israel, in Gaza, the exclusive government in Gaza, until the Palestinian will vote for a government that represents Gaza.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Roni Keidar. Adi, are you related to Roni? Are you her daughter? Please ask the question.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. I wanted to just ask on the line of what Shao was just indicating, is if we are expecting to try and get, move forward from where we are today, I think it is expected that we would also have expect Israel government to have new elections in order to see where we're at. Where we're at now is not a government necessarily that is going to be moving us forward. So I think there is definitely in the Israeli side an expectation for also a new election, and maybe that would be more pronounced to where the Confederation will be. Do I make sense?
Yeah, but look, we see the Israeli government and the Palestinian government as competition. We are not here to make the Israeli or the Palestinian governments better governments. We are here to deal with issues that we, as the government of the area, want to resolve. And we are dealing with them in the best way to resolve those issues, not to try to play fair between the Israeli and the Palestinian governments. That's not really our concern. Our concern is our people, to have them live in peace.
Mm-hmm. So it's giving the opportunity for the Palestinians to have a government. Is that what you're trying to?
We want the Palestinian president not to veto this legislation and not to humiliate the Palestinian president. And we say, okay, we understand that you want to be the government in Gaza, but there is a chaos in Gaza. So we will wait until you have an election, and at which point you will be the government of Gaza, subject to the IPC constitution. So we will also be the government in Gaza. We are the federal government in Gaza, but we want to give you a way to help this legislation by not vetoing the legislation and accepting a mechanism for us to work in Gaza while we are giving you an option or an opportunity to be the government of Gaza as well.
And making sure that the Israeli side is also giving that opportunity.
No, we are not giving the Israeli side that opportunity. They're not a
No,
problem.
that they're providing, like they're not holding back from that opportunity for the Palestinians.
We are not talking about the Israeli side being the government of Gaza.
Yes.
We want the Israeli side out of Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We're doing what we think is the best way to help the people of Gaza and southern Israel.
Mm-hmm.
We're not here to please one side or to be fair to both sides or say which side is better than the other. We do what's the most practical, as narrowly as possible to make the life of the Israelis and the Palestinians in southern Israel and Gaza without offending the Israeli and the Palestinian government as much as possible.
Okay. Okay,
right.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a vote, and after the vote, we will have a veto power given to the Israeli and the Palestinian government. Palestinian parliament members, please vote. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask Roni. Roni, what you can, Roni, give us your opinion while the Palestinian parliament members are voting. Palestinian members.
No, the Palestinian. I think this is something that is going to be necessary for both sides, hopefully not to veto, because this is the first step towards some sort of peace coming in order. Now, the thing is this, that as soon as we have, if we manage to have a confederation with the Israelis and the Palestinians, we're that step forward in accepting a new reality in this region. And as long as we have legislations or try to pass legislations that don't harm any side, the Israeli or the Palestinian, then there's no reason for them to veto, unless there's something that I can't think of at the moment that they will have to veto for. But that's something they'll have to explain, and we'll have to negotiate and deal with. But
so you approve of this legislation?
I definitely approve, yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Publish the vote for the Palestinian parliament members. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Now you can see the power that we have here if we are able to obtain $50 billion or less. The power that we have over the Israeli and the Palestinian governments. They will have to pay a lot of attention to us before they veto this legislation. Publish the votes of the Israeli parliament members, also 100%. We need 55%. Let's go to the president of Palestine. Mrs. President of Palestine, are you going to veto this legislation?
No, not going to
Okay.
veto it, no.
All right, let's go to the Israeli Prime Minister. Mr. Prime Minister, are you going to veto this legislation?
The government of Israel supports many parts of this legislation, and especially points 1, 4, and 7. However, we have several problems, and some are very severe, and some really just need clarification. For example, the government of Israel doesn't understand how the IPC, point 5, how the IPC shall retain authority over the Gaza Strip as long as Hamas is still there and exerting authority. And that brings us to
That's not what it says in number 5. I'm sorry.
The IPC shall retain authority over the Gaza Strip.
Correct.
The government of Israel doesn't understand how you can do that as long as Hamas is still there exerting its own authority.
Well,
which brings us to point 2, the ceasefire. The government of Israel feels that Hamas, or knows that Hamas is a direct threat, and the government of Israel will not have a ceasefire until Hamas is completely destroyed and eliminated and gone from Gaza. So these two things come together. We're trying to end Hamas, but if we have a ceasefire, Hamas is still there, and then we don't understand how the IPC can control it.
Well, the Hamas has been there for a long time. In fact, you are the one who gave them money to exist. And what you're saying is that as long as they exist, we're gonna have a veto. Well,
the government of Israel thought that we could work with Hamas, and by helping it along, it could become a benign and govern Gaza and not disturb and not attack the people of Israel. But on October 7th of 2023, Hamas attacked southern Israel and took hostages and killed a lot of people. And the government of Israel feels that Hamas has to be eliminated before we have a ceasefire and before the IPC can actually exert authority there. So we have this problem. As long as,
when do you expect that Hamas would be eliminated? Give me the date.
We think it'll be eliminated next week.
Next week.
But until there is a ceasefire, until it is eliminated, we will not have a ceasefire, which gives us a real problem with
Okay.
point 2, and point 2, I think, relates to point 5. We think they're interrelated. You can't do point 5 until we eliminate Hamas, and that means we can't accept point 2.
All right, let me ask you this. If we pass this legislation after next week, will you veto the legislation?
It depends whether we think that we can eliminate Hamas by next week, but if we can't, it depends on how well we've eliminated Hamas.
All right, so basically you're saying that you give yourself an open option to remain in Gaza until an unknown time. Now, you have an election coming up in about a year.
We do.
Okay, so we are offering an option to the Israeli people. We're still going to try to get the $50 billion, but we're going to put it on hold this way until someone else is elected. And we will, because the Palestinian president did not veto this legislation, we see an open opportunity here. So we will not be using the funding because you put a hold on you vetoed this legislation. Are you vetoing this legislation?
We don't want to, but as long as the points 2 exists as it sits, as it is written, we have to veto. We also have a problem with the rebuilding. That the rebuilding, we welcome the $50 billion that the IPC will get, and we'll use some of it in the kibbutz to rebuild the kibbutzes around Israel that were destroyed by Hamas. But any rebuilding has to be under the control and the permission of Israel, both national and local authorities, and Israel building codes and city planning rules.
We have no problem with Israel's building codes.
Well, we ought to. It's got to be that
standards.
It's got to be a standard, and we'd really like it to be in this legislation. But the real problem is point 2 and how it relates to point 5.
All right. So
and
are you willing
really,
to have an immediate and unconditional ceasefire?
That's right. We cannot accept an immediate ceasefire.
Okay. All right. So, like I said, we will continue to try to obtain the 50 billion grant, but we're not going to spend it on either Israeli or Palestinian in Gaza or in southern Israel until hopefully there will be a new government in Israel, Palestine, at which point they will be able to help us help the people of Israel and Palestine rebuild. All right, I think we exhausted this issue again. Let's go to open discussion. Before I do that, Shlomo, do you have a question?
Maybe just a comment to remind the Prime Minister of Israel that the Hamas already say that they will step down. They are ready to step down under a comprehensive agreement here, which includes, of course, returning the hostages and all of that. So maybe that could be an assumption that will happen, that there will be a comprehensive agreement that will have ceasefire. Hamas will not be in charge, and everything else.
We want to be in charge until there is an elected government, and we don't want the Israeli government or Hamas government that have not been elected by the people of Gaza. We are the only people who have been elected by the people of Gaza, and we see all other elements that are trying to take control of Gaza that have not been elected as illegitimate opponent of the people of Gaza and Israel. All right, let's go to a post-simulation survey after participating in the simulation. Do you support a common federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine? Five more seconds to vote. Publish the vote. Exact same results. Two people voted against it, so we haven't been able to convince them. I'd like to make some closing remarks, and then we'll go to open discussion. A common democratic confederation government can bring peace. We can do the online election. The cost of having a federal government is relatively very, very small, somewhere, in my opinion, about $100 million. Israel is spending billions and billions of dollars in the last many years. A federal government is really, I think most of you agree, is the best way to make peace. The current governments are not legitimate in the area of Israel and Palestine. They're not elected by the people of Israel and Palestine, and a democracy could bring peace. So when we have the discussion, let's talk about the assumptions. Are we able to meet those issues that are presented in the assumptions? That's really, to me, is the key. So let's go to an open discussion. I'm going to stop the PowerPoint and let's go to ask. Also, I wanted to show you Roni's book. I don't know if you can see me. On the Border, a terrific book. I highly recommend it. It's written very well, very, very nicely written. It's a personal book. I don't know how she was able to have her personal life with the political life. Tremendous. I highly recommend this book. Roni, is this book available on Amazon? You need to unmute. You need to unmute. You need to unmute, Roni.
It will be available in about this week. It will open up on Amazon. It can also be bought through Kindle.
Oh, it was. Oh, okay.
If I may, you mentioned the personal, how I managed to put together the personal issue and the political issue. The thing is that it was important for me to show that it wasn't a question of a whim that I had to be a peace activist. It was something that I built up over my life with the different experiences I had, both, as you mentioned, the time in Egypt, the time I lived in the northern Sinai, in the Rafah area. All these things built up in me a recognition that this land is mine. I do believe that I belong here, but I do believe, and I show through this book how I came to believe in this, that this is not only my land, it is also a land of another people. And that's why I mentioned in this book the saying that this land is mine, this land is yours, this land was made for you and me. And I truly believe in that. And this has been the cause. Now, with it, we've all had lapses, we've all had gone through different obstacles on both sides, and I definitely won't go through history to mention them all. But we're both hurting. We are both frightened for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren. Comparison, who is suffering more, doesn't help, in my opinion. We've got to recognize each other's pain and realize that we can overcome this pain. We've just got to want to, both of us. And when I sometimes wake up with a picture of what this region could be like if we lived in peace. And I believe in it. I cannot stop believing in this as the only option. We've got to stop
Thank you.
killing
Thank
one
you.
another until there's no one left. And it won't be a question of either them or us. It will be neither them nor us. And that's why we have to stop. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, let's go to Shlomo. You have a question, or Shlomo, and then Sean, and then Margaret?
I have so many questions to Roni, but I will I will just make it two maybe. First of all, do you believe how about the idea of one state solution, a country for all the citizens, equal rights for everybody? What do you think about this type of a solution versus the two-state solution, which never existed, in fact? That's question number one.
Well, actually, I've toyed between the two. There was a time that I was completely for a two-state solution, and I thought the only way was a two-state solution. And then I came to realize that I don't know whether it's there, but that's why I think the Confederation is the ideal way of showing it. Where it can't be one state for all of us. It has to be. Somehow we have to have each one of us, because we have our different cultures, our different traditions that we need, and maybe the only way would be to start with a two-state solution, and that each one of us has a certain pride in their own nation before we can learn to live together. And that is something I've been thinking about very often. And I think about these things with my Palestinian friends, and we talk about it very often. Sometimes I say that maybe as being Jewish, I should recognize the Palestinian problem more than anyone else in the world, because I know what it is to need that identity, to need that place that I can say, this is my home. And that's exactly what they need. If we have that solution and we manage to work next to one another and learn from one another, maybe the step later will be to have a certain merge between the two states. But again, this is something we've got to decide on together. It's not how I feel, it's how we both feel.
Right.
And knowing the Israelis today, do you think the Israelis are interested at all living in peace with the Palestinians? Right now, there is a starvation going on in Gaza. And how do you feel about it? It's not far from you, and this is like the Holocaust, the zone of interest. Gas chambers will be better than what's going on right now.
Yes, I see it. I'm close to it. I hear it day and night. And I know that some people can sit back and say, oh, okay, it's not us. It's not them, it's us. And feel more comfortable. I can't. I don't feel more comfortable because I know so many people in there. And I know so many people who think exactly the same way I do. And I would love to have them come over for a cup of coffee and sit and talk. And I've tried to do that over years, or even when there were the obstacles, the walls and the borders and the crossings. We tried and we worked very hard at getting more and more Palestinians and Israelis to work together using different means and ways, but we wouldn't stop. We didn't stop, and we continued. Now, the 7th of October was a blow. I think that I lost dear friends and dear family, and some people can't understand how I can still think of my friends in Gaza. I even find sometimes that I can't go quite freely and say, oh, I'm thinking of my friends in Gaza. But I can't, I have to, and they're there. They're not going anywhere. And I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere either. So we've got to make it work. And I won't stop believing, and I'll continue sitting on the border of hope, hoping that I'll be able to cross it and build up something new for the next generations.
All right, Sean.
Can you hear me, Joseph?
Yeah, we hear you better this time.
Okay, great. Just one question. Have you been going on social media lately with the war with Iran and Israel?
A little bit, yes.
Well, you know what? I've been going on the social media and I'm seeing all this hysteria of these people, even these influencers are saying stuff about Iran, that Iran is a dictator, it's an Islamic dictatorship. We should dismantle Iran and free the people of Iran. But you know what? This is what Israel wants to do, like trying to convince people that they need to go to war with Iran to get rid of Iran, but all they're trying to do is that because Iran is a threat to Israel, Israel makes this pretext that Iran is a dictatorship and must be dismantled, when all it is that Iran's a threat to Israel. Israel could care less if Iran is a dictator or not. All they're caring about is it's a threat to Israel. So Israel's starting to make all this propaganda on the social media that telling people that we need to free the people of Iran and all that stuff. How do you deal with these? These are all these hysteria going on social media. Like they have much higher voice than us, and it's spewing around. And I can't stand looking at all this stuff that they're doing on the social media. How do you deal with that, Joseph?
Who are you asking? Are you asking Roni?
Well, both you and her.
I can answer.
Yeah, go ahead, Shlomo, please.
Yeah, it is a propaganda, probably by robots or bots of all kind by the Israeli government, and of course they try to create an image of Iran as a dictator and all of this. Yeah, it's total nonsense now, and an excuse for what? For attacking Iran in such sneaky and ugly way. And so, what can you say? It's the internet is open, but just refer to it as propaganda per se, So,
I know, because there's just so many misinformation going on the internet.
Yeah.
Well, let me, Ronnie, if you don't mind, let me tell you what I wrote about on this. I said, I'm not a detective, military detective. I don't really know anything about the intentions of either government. I don't know who is a good guy, who is a bad guy. That's not, I don't have the ability to make that decision. This is why by the way, you have the legislation to find out really what's going on. But what I do know is that, look at the facts. The people from Israel, I know them better than the people from Iran. And the people from Israel, the Zionists, have never been able to give peace to the Jewish people. They have created a Jewish state in 1948 after a military victory, which created a Jewish state, which has been involved in constant wars, subjecting the Palestinian and the Jewish people to constant wars, killing each other all the time. So that hasn't been a success, even though there was a military success in 1948. And then you have the military success of 1967. And what did that bring us? It brought us an occupation, an apartheid that is going on until today. Okay, so all these good guy military successes, bad guys, you look at the facts and you say, well, what are the facts? They don't have peace. They have constant wars, apartheid, occupation, and more wars. So that's my bottom line here, as far as I'm concerned. Roni, what do you think?
They want to keep it that way.
I am at a bit of a problem. What I think is, first of all, I think everyone, most of us anyway, completely differentiate between the leadership and the people. And when we talk about the Iranian people, we don't talk about the Iranian leadership. Now, the leadership has given us in excuses to think that they are waiting to destroy the state of Israel. And they've said it themselves. I'm not talking about any commentator saying that they said. I've heard it from them on different occasions. So I can't dismiss it. And I have to take this into consideration when I start planning the future. Now, I do feel that we have to use the grassroots organizations that we have, both in Iran and here in Israel and in Palestine and all over, in fact, and stop letting the radical leaderships that most of us are having at the moment to control our lives. And this is what I feel that we've got to put a stop to. And I'm not going to, I think we've got to take out of our discussions the question of, are you pro this or pro that? Are you anti this or anti that? I don't want people to take sides. I want people to look at the situation, be pro-Israeli, pro-Palestinian, pro-humanity people who want a safe place to live and be able to sleep all night and have a life with respect and dignity for all of us. And I think it is possible. I do really and truly believe it is. And as long as I can, I'll go on doing everything I can to put more and more reality into what I'm saying. When people say I'm dreaming, I say, no, I think I'm the realist around here, not the dreamer.
Yeah. Roni, let me ask you this. Let's assume that we are able to create a federal government and we are able to meet all these issues that were presented in the assumptions. What would be, in your opinion, the reaction of the Iranian government to this kind of a federal government? Based on what I heard,
we're talking about. I can't talk for the Iranian government. I can't begin to understand them at the moment. The Iranian people, on the other hand, is something else, as I said before. And like we want to have a delegation of people. We have to approach the people. And maybe they'll be able to convince their governments to think otherwise.
All right, let's go to Evelyn.
I would really appreciate an open
I thought Margaret was
discussion.
next. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Margaret, yes. Go ahead, Margaret.
Hey, thanks. This is for Roni. You know, I believe you represent the majority of the people from the river to the sea. And I'm just wondering if you have a mentor, there's somebody whose voice of reason you trust and, you know, recommend. Or, I mean, you wrote the book, that's good. But, you know, may every person, every being from the river to the sea be protected by the IPC. You know, I'm big on thought manifestation, and, you know, you're beautiful, right? And I'm just wondering if there's some mentor, some potential, maybe even who you would choose as president of the IPC. Thank you.
You need to unmute, Roni.
Sorry. I can't really say who I'd vote for as president. I mean, first of all, I have to know the people involved and who the people are in the IPC Parliament and vote for them. But I know many people do think the way we do and do see a possibility. There are times I don't even know who I'm going to vote for the elections that we're going to have in Israel maybe sometime. So it's, you know, it's a little too far-fetched for me at the moment and too lucid for me to just think who I'll vote for. I try to put over my message to as many audiences that I can, speaking to people in like pre-military courses and schools here in Israel, and different people that invite me abroad, either by Zoom or when I used to travel more. I try to put over this message because I do think it's important. And I do want more and more.
You should run as for
how
president
true it is.
of the IPC.
Pardon?
Right? Perhaps
Pardon,
you
I
should
couldn't
run for
hear.
president of the IPC.
I'm too old for that, I think. We'll have to have someone younger.
Oh, no. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
I love that question. All right, let's go to Evelyn.
I think it's really important that people at least are willing to talk about the one-state solution and acknowledge their fears. I think the first step is to acknowledge fears and in the end to understand that creating that is what's going to give way to people being able to live in peace and dignity. I think it's important to hear everybody's reservations and real fear, but we have to work towards it. Anything we've worked for, I keep on using the Zionist program from 1897, the World Zionist Organization. They worked so hard to make Zionism, to put it on the table. And I'm not trying to allay people's fears. I just want to, I think, from my belief, is that the one state is going to make it so that people don't have to live in fear. And to work with that. I'm just curious what how other people feel about it. And that's also with my experience of having been in West Jerusalem for 2 weeks and in Bethlehem for a week just recently. I just returned 5 weeks ago. I'm just curious what people think.
I think that one state solution is probably the best perfect solution, no question about it. If you believe in democracy, in equality, in separation between government and religion, in a constitution, there is no argument, a reasonable argument against the one state solution. There is no ideological or any argument against the one state solution. The only thing is, in my opinion, is the practical argument. The practicality is we have a Jewish state. We have a Israeli government. The Israeli people love a Jewish state and they love their government. We also have a Palestinian government, not as strong, not as popular, but we do have a Palestinian government, okay? So from a practical point of view, a federal government makes the most sense at this time. Maybe it will evolve to a one state, and that is a realistic direction. But we have to deal in practicality, and the practical matter is that you have a very strong Israeli military government with strong economic. It is far harder for them to swallow the idea of a one state than to swallow the idea of a federal government in which their government remains intact.
Yeah, I have something to say about it. Two things. First of all, one state, you understand, that means that the Jewish state is over, the Zionism is over. You talk about just normal country with normal people living together, and forget the Zionism and forget the Jewish supremacy and all of that. That's what it means, and that's why very unlikely that Israelis will agree to this. And now they have the privilege and the power; they won't give it up. That's to be realistic. But that brings me a question to Roni. Actually, before that,
Well, wait. Let's have Rob ask a question, and then you'll ask your question to Roni.
Well,
Rob.
that's a question to Roni too, but that's okay. I'll wait.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rob.
thanks very much. I have expressed myself on the chat, but I'm with Evelyn and the others that the only solution in my mind is a one-state solution. Even as a stepping stone in two states, it's a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for ongoing two sides to aggression. Somebody just mentioned having a one-state solution. You learn what justice is about. You learn what reconciliation is all about. You've got to take away the supremacy, the apartheid, the sense of superiority. Yes, it's difficult. It's a long step for those who are in power and those who run apartheid. But we saw a change in South Africa. I'm from South Africa, by the way. We saw a change there, and I'm still optimistic, and I don't think there's any other solution but to go through into one country.
Well, what's wrong with the federal government that we are proposing?
No, I'm not against the I'm not against the federal government. I think the exercise and what we're doing here is good. I think it's potentially that first step, but to propose a two-state solution as a new solution to where we are now, that for me would be a disaster. I think the IPC and what we're trying to demonstrate a possibility here, far-fetched as it might be, as Roni, you said, it's worth pursuing. It's worth saying, well, we need to bring people together.
No, she said wishful thinking, not far-fetched.
Okay, wishful thinking. Fair enough.
Roni, do you have a response or reply?
Yes, I first of all, I'll refer just before your question, Shlomo. I'll refer to the sorry, sorry, I've lost thought all of a sudden. Sorry.
So let me continue my idea.
Yes. Ask your question, Shlomo.
So first of all, before I forget, your name Keidar, do you know what is the origin? Just curiosity.
Yes, I do. The name, it's not Keidar originally, it's Khader. My husband is from Egypt, and his name was Khader, and we changed it over the years. His brothers did, so we followed suit and we changed it to Keidar.
And you know that Keidar was the son of Ishmael, right? In the Bible, if you read the Bible.
Yes.
Funny, okay.
But Qadir in Arabic means able, strong.
Okay, great. Okay, so
and one of the names of the God, one of the 99 names of God is Qadir.
Okay, good. I have another question though about the Zionism. So I'm, by the way, fully agree with Rob and with Joseph about one state. I mean, I also moved, like you, in a way. I moved from left to somewhere else. I don't know where I am now. But Zionism. So, and it brings me to the problem. So lately, I started to look more into Zionism, and I realized how much I don't know about Zionism. So we all know Zionism was created for the Jews to be self-ruled and to stop being kicked around in Europe for hundreds of years and be self-controlled and how to say it? Anyways, to
self-sufficient.
To have our dignity and our be normal. But but if you look at Zionism from Herzl and all, it's not normal. It is, there is some supremacy hidden there, and there is some racism hidden there that we growing up in Israel, we never were aware of it, because we personally didn't feel superior. We felt equal with our friends and so on. But yet there is something strange about it. And also the problem of demography. That means that now you have to have majority of Jews. Okay, if you have, that means that if you are only quarter or only 20% of the population, you have to get rid of 80% of the population. Come on. So that was there was something built in genetically in the Zionism that brings us all the way now. And if you judge just by the outcome is genocide and ethnic cleansing. So if you look at both edges, the origin from one end and the results that we see now, something is wrong with Zionism. And once you admit it, it was much easier to construct a solution. I think that's just my thought about it. I wonder what you think.
The question is, once you admit
the question
fault of Zionism,
Yes, you said you had
can
a
you go
question to
into a better solution?
So the question is, have you ever really looked very deeply into the origin, what Zionism actually means, the two sides of the coin? We know we grew up with one side. Okay, the Jews want to be self-ruled, but the other side is very dark side that caused us to come to what we have now. We have Israel. Half of Israel is ready to kill all the people in Gaza, 2 million people, and 82% of the Israelis are prepared to ethnic cleanse them. To where, by the way, there is nowhere to go. So how did we come to such a Nazi, in a way, Nazi reality? And that was pushed me back to ask what was wrong in the beginning. How did we get to this point? And of course, the solution from now will be very difficult, and the fear will be real, because how can you not fear? You kill and kill and kill and kill and kick them here and kick them there, and do you want them to love you, to live with you in peace? You know, of course, the more you do it, the more the fear, and the fear is justified. So that's the trouble we are in, and I unlike you guys, I'm very pessimistic, but that's me.
Okay.
Okay, Roni, the question was directed to you.
Yes, I'm not quite sure where the question ended, where the question went to. Look, I don't want to get to a point of, I said that before, I think, who hurts more? Let's not start comparing how much pain each one of us has. That's not going to lead us anywhere. We're both hurting inside out. And I do think that it all stems from terrible fear that we don't manage to overcome, and each side insignifies that fear and makes it even stronger. And this is what we've got to try and stop. So I've found the people on the other side who I can trust, who I can build a bridge with. And we did build before the 7th of October. We were on a road that I felt so confident that we were going somewhere, that we were leading to something so much better for us all. And I must say, you know, I always gave excuses. We've had rounds living where I am. I have rounds and rounds again of violence. And each time I gave excuses. They live in such conditions, they have this, they have that. But suddenly on the 7th of October, I felt that, can I explain? Can I really excuse going that far? Now, I can't even begin to tell you how I felt in this. This was the first time I felt. I heard stories before of Jews in Europe, and I heard stories before of my people all over, but I never really felt it. I never really saw that hate And it was there. And I'll quickly give you a story of a few years ago of me opening television and seeing on a news broadcast a summer camp held by Hamas. And there were young children there with 13 years old, 14 years old, all with rifles in their hands, shouting and screaming, and so much hate in their eyes. And all I could do, being a typical woman, was sit on the couch and cry my eyes out, because I just couldn't see these children doing, this was their fun, so to speak. And I rang my friends up in Gaza and I said, look, I want you to go out and get young people together and go and create summer camps, a daily outing, and I'll fund you with games and all kinds of equipment so that you can give those children fun and games, that they can sing and dance. And every night I got a video from somewhere else on the Gaza area, in Khan Yunis and in Deir el-Balach and all over. And every evening there'll be this video with children dancing and singing and playing and laughing. And according to the people, my friends there, they all knew that we were part of this gathering that they had. Now, I felt we were doing something important. I want to go back there. I want to start those initiatives again. And I do believe it can work. Whether it's going to be one state in the end or two states, those are legalities that we're going to work out together. But first of all, we've got to make us believe in one another and stop fearing and hating one another.
That's true.
Very good. Mark, Samir, I'm sorry, Samir, and then
Yes. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you
Hello,
for
Samir.
your participation. Yes, I just wanted to emphasize what Rob Campbell said, that the one democratic state, I believe that it is the best solution and it is the easiest solution to implement, especially when what called Israel or proper Israel had that experience already 60 years ago. They achieved the one democratic state prior 1967. It was not perfect democracy, but I mean, it was one democratic state. And I believe that if the 1967 war did not occur and proper Israel, that what it is supposed to be one state democracy, developed and progressed, probably today will be in a better place, will be in a better democracy. But because of the 1967 war and the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza and East Jerusalem, I think that had the reflection on that democracy in Israel, what called proper Israel. And instead of improving and progressing, it decreased. It went down. And we reach this point now where, I mean, the two people are not getting along and whatever. But if any Israeli today, just think about it, that you're living in Israel, what calls proper Israel, you're living with Palestinians. 20% of the Israeli population are Palestinians. So you're already living the democracy. What's preventing from doing the same thing? You did that experiment 60 years ago. You repeat it again by annexing the West Bank and Gaza Strip and the East Jerusalem and make it into one democratic state and give the Palestinians equal rights, period.
Yeah, but
you
here
don't need to
came-
negotiate. You don't need to say anything. I mean, if any Israeli has a brain in his mind, he look at the reality. What is the future? I mean, there is no future in the situation right now. There is definitely no future. If they continue that way, no matter how powerful you are, no matter how superior you are, there is no future. I mean, there is no peace, no settlement, no future. You're surrounded by 400,000 Arabs. And if you are not going to be part of that society, you're out. And you're
400
Zionist-
million, 400 million, not 400,000, 400
No,
million.
yeah, sorry, 400 million. Sorry. Yeah, 400 million. I mean, how can you survive in this society and being hostile to them? You cannot. I mean, this is absurd. And now, I mean, we're seeing that the more killing, that means you're creating more hatred. And that means you will reach a point will be a dead end. And then that will be the end of your society. Because, I mean, you cannot, I mean, survive on hatred and killing and all of that. I mean, just think about it. I mean, yourself, I mean, you have to wake up every day, a bomb or a missile coming to you. I mean, how can you survive? I mean, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 2 years. I mean, no way. So I don't see that there is a future for the situation, and they have to come to the solution that, okay, they want to be all in one land, fine. One land, one country, one government, one state, one democratic state. Then you have to be equal to everybody, and that's it. And that's the future. If they do that, they will be welcomed by the whole Arab world. They will become part of the whole Middle East. They will be accepted by the whole world. I mean, the whole world will accept one state democratic solution, and that will be the end of war and hatred and everything. I just don't see that there is no other solution, because this one state solution is the easiest to implement. You don't need to negotiate. You don't need to say we have to transfer people from here to there or whatever. That's it. There are 14 million people living in historic Palestine, 7 million Israeli Jews and 7 million Palestinians, and they can live equally, perfectly in perfect democracy, 50-50. They have
I agree with you, Samir. I agree with Samir. Dead right, Samir. Absolutely right.
All right, let's go to Mark.
Thank you.
Mark is
Shah, sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay. Thank you, first of all, for this. It's my first time joining. I tried last time. Thank you, Roni. I've had the good pleasure of getting to know your daughter, so I'm hearing your voice through her as well. I wanted to go back to something that Shlomo had said earlier that I think, Roni, you had responded to. And what I heard in Shlomo's commentary, so we're going back like maybe 10, 12 minutes ago, was an acknowledgement of the reality, not a comparison. And the response that was given back to Shlomo was like, let's not compare, let's not compare. And I, as someone with Palestinian background, I find that kind of response or commentary a little bit, I don't know, there's something that doesn't quite sit totally right with that, because I think when people are trying to do their best to acknowledge the reality of what is happening and what the reality of what Zionism is for people on the receiving end, you know, there's this beautiful side of it, and then there's this other quite horrific side of it. And I didn't hear in Shlomo, like, let's compare and contrast. I actually think there is no way to compare. It is impossible to compare the hurt on both sides. And I think that actually does an injustice to the reality of what is happening. So I just wanted to say to Shlomo, I did hear that the posture of your commentary was actually acknowledgement of reality and not a desire to compare. And also, my hope is that the activities that you are you know, calling people in Palestine or in Gaza to say, oh, like, invite your children to think of, you know, of using these exercises where they can dance and play. There is also the reality that there is a call for Israeli citizens, quote unquote, across the planet. Like, we're learning more about what's happening in Hebrew schools. We're learning more about the reality of what young Jewish students are being taught in the States, like the kind of militarism and hatred that I grew up in a very Zionist environment. and that I would hear coming out of them. And these are people in a democratic Western country. So I think I hope that there is also a check on what's going on there as well, so that they can also be more peaceful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Shah, I would like to actually agree with you. I think that, and we had a discussion, I had a discussion with Roni before we started the simulation on exactly that point. I said, because Roni mentioned, and she said, well, let's not talk about the past, let's talk about the future, something like that. And I said, no, let's talk about the past. Let's acknowledge the past and see how we have to be honest about the past. We have to deal with the issues of the past in an honest way. That's the only way to move into the future. It's not ignoring the past. It's moving. And Roni, I'll let you make your comments regarding that issue because to be fair to you as well.
Well, as I said to you before as well, I'm not saying by any means we must ignore the future or forget the future, or the past. We mustn't ignore the past. We mustn't, but we mustn't dwell on the past and not look into the future. That's what I'm saying. And when I talk about comparisons, I talk about people. Each person, each individual cannot compare with the pain of another individual. No one will tell you, oh, I've got so many were killed and we've got so many. It doesn't work that way because each one is tearing you apart. Now, I don't want, as I said, I don't want to ignore it. I don't want you to forget it, but we've got to look forward. And we can, each one of us, like I took someone from Gaza to hospital in Israel, and we passed Ashkelon, and he said to me, you know, I was born here. My father's house is here. And I said, I know. And I know, and it grieves me that this had to happen. But I said to him, today you're living in Gaza. My husband was in Egypt, and he had a beautiful home in Egypt. And one day everything was taken from him and he was told to leave Egypt with absolutely nothing and find a place elsewhere. And he came to Israel. So I don't want to start comparing with him whose loss was more. My husband's house was a very bad loss for him, but he looked into the future. And when we went back to Egypt as a representative of the Israeli embassy, then when we went back, many family and friends said to him, go and see what you can get back. And my husband said, no, I'm not going there because that's an ever-ending story. And I said to this gentleman, I don't want you to forget. I want the day to come that you'll bring your children and show them where you were born. But today, make a life for yourself where you are. And don't keep bringing up the past and an excuse for not moving forward. That's all I was saying. But I will not forget.
I just want to talk about the IPC in this context because it really is the best mechanism, in my opinion, because it gives the Palestinian equal power to the Israelis. And I think that talking about the past is very important. And talking about the future is also very important. And the Palestinians have...
I mean, yeah, it's not just important, Joseph. I mean, it is critical. It is critical for Israel, especially for Israelis. I mean, if there is any people in the world they have to learn from the past, will be the Israelis.
Yeah, but if you have an IPC and you have parliament members, then Palestinian parliament members said, we are not going to move forward until we deal with the issue of, for example, the expulsion of Palestinians. We need to deal with that issue. And if you deal honestly, you say, okay, let's deal with that issue. What is the practical way to deal with that issue? Based on my experience as a lawyer doing this for decades, I found that the best way to resolve is not to say oh, just let's not deal with that. In fact, the opposite. Let's deal with it and giving you the tools to resolve it. Not me as a superior to you. And when you get the tools to resolve it, when you are given the power to resolve it, the resolution comes in from the person who has been victimized, who then the resolution is far better. It's far better and far more honest, because you're giving them an opportunity to express their issues, and you're not ignoring it. And you say, okay, many times I've seen in my experience, they are even a lot more progressive in their resolution than I thought would be possible. So whenever I deal with an issue that people have, and I realize it's not similar to the Israeli-Palestinian, the magnitude, but the principle I think is the same, is let's deal with the issues in an honest way. It would make us go far better into the future.
And also I can add, Joseph, that you tell them that let us deal with the issue by going to the past, pre-1967, to your experiment and learn from it. Because they dealt with that issue, the expulsion of Palestinians and the Nakba, already 60 years ago. They realized that they have to integrate the Palestinian society in one state. So if you are talking to them, okay, let us deal with it and learn from your past.
Yeah. All right,
and
let's
bring
go to
it
Rob.
to the future. Yeah.
Rob.
May I add something?
I have a question for you, again for Roni. I'd like to go back to a comment you made earlier on, when you mentioned that people need a home, and you recognize the desire for that, and yet, based upon what you've said, you've described the fact that you bring people together, young people together, and to learn how to live together. And I'm interested to know more what your experience is, and why you talk about there being a home, which I assume is based upon sort of racial grounds.
You need to unmute, Ronnie.
May I relate to that? Maybe.
Unmute.
Ronnie, please. Unmute. We cannot hear you. You need to unmute. Just keep it unmuted. We cannot hear you. You need to unmute. It's on the left side where it says audio. Go to the left side where it says audio and remove this. Yeah.
Yes, I've got it now. No, I was completely taken out of the Zoom. It wasn't a question of the muting. I was out of the Zoom completely.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back again. Yes, I'm back to where your question now. The thing is this, I do very much believe in a one. I think everything you've said in favor of a one-state solution for all of us is absolutely right, and every one of you, I think, have voiced that, and I understand that completely. I only said that maybe this is something that we should have like a step before, because I see this as a certain need for a home. Now, I do find that I need a home. And even today, and I think the Palestinians have exactly the same. I know that the time I spent in Egypt, when as far as I was concerned, any Palestinian I met was an Egyptian, and I realized that he wasn't 100% Egyptian. That was when I really realized how important it is, because they're also not 100% comfortable wherever they are, except in Israel. So That's why I said this is a land not only for me, a home not only for me, but for other people as well. And I stress this very, very much. I wish that is the ultimate, the euphoria that I would like to believe in. I do think that the IPC, the confederation that's suggested here, can be a way to give also that feeling of I can govern my own lives according to my tradition and culture, whereas and each one can have their own, when we can solve the problems for all of us together. That's the only thing. It's not that I'm saying that I prefer a two-state solution by any means. I think a one-state solution will, as you said before, would solve many problems, and the confederation even more so, with the two people living in this land, where they could live wherever they like and feel under a certain government.
Land for all. Land
yes,
for all.
yes.
All right, let's go to Wolf.
Absolutely.
Wolf.
Yeah. So I don't have. It's not going to be very coherent, but I have sort of these different thoughts. One is that the word practical has been used. What is practical? And for me, the one-state solution is the practical solution. In fact, it's the inevitable solution. And it's very difficult to predict the future. It's impossible to how it's going to come about. One example is Herzl. I don't think he could have predicted the Holocaust, but it happened, and it had a real significant influence on the formation of the state of Israel. I say it's inevitable because there's a certain. I'm not a scholar, but there are certain things that happen. Israel was formed at a time when colonialism was the normal thing. It was formulated by European countries who were practicing colonialism. And what Israel did was the natural thing. You went in, you did the thing, and the Jews said, everybody's doing it, that's what we do, But things change. I'm in Canada now, and we're going through a reconciliation process with the Indigenous people in Canada. It's gone on for quite a while. It's going to continue going. Israel is going to go through that process.
Yes.
When, I don't know, but it's going to have to, it's going to have to happen. Israel's mindset is still back in the 1940s, the way it was set up, but it will be forced. So when you look at October the 7th, that's really nothing compared to probably what will happen in the future. And that's one of the other things that will force the Israelis to de-radicalize themselves. They're always talking about de-radicalizing the Palestinians, but the fact is that they're projecting all of the stuff that they accuse the Palestinians of. They're projecting their own issues. So how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, I don't know, but to my mind, it's inevitable that the practical solution, the inevitable solution, is the one-state solution.
We are proposing a one-state solution with the allowing the reality to be taken into consideration. The only thing we are not the only thing we are not proposing is to dismantle the Israeli or the Palestinian government. As far as we are concerned, it would be better if they were not in existence.
I'm not opposed to what you're saying. I'm just saying that that's just a method. I'm just saying it's going to. The conclusion is the one state. How we get there, we can't predict. And what you're saying may.
Or it will end up with the same thing, with one state too.
Okay, I got a message from Micha. Micha wants to make a comment. So Sean, please allow Micha to speak. He didn't speak before.
Hello,
Go ahead.
am I on mute? All right.
Yeah,
I
you're
just
okay.
want,
You're
first of
okay.
all, to react to what Samir has said before. The reality in the pre-1967 Israel was not that optimistic for Israeli Palestinians. For most of the time, they were under military government. And I think that the Israeli Arabs or the Israeli Palestinians today are enjoying more freedom than they enjoyed pre-1967.
That's right.
But regarding the one state, two state, I think that still the one state is really the most human solution here, and I admire what they have done, what you have done in South Africa. But I think that still the national sentiment on both sides is still very strong, and it's very. I think it would be quite difficult, almost impossible, to cross the bridge, because Israel, we still have our history, and I don't want to go into it now. And seeing Israel, the Eretz Israel, as the home, as a safe home, as a secure home for the Jewish people, and still people think that it's a secure place in spite of what's happening. And for the Palestinians, I think that some Palestinians have not given up the idea of returning to their lands and everybody returning to his lands. So the national sentiment is too strong, still too strong for a one-state solution. And the solution which is offered here on the program, I think it's the midway. I think it's maybe a stepping stone towards maybe the ideal of a one-state solution.
Thank you. Rami, what about Sean? Are you gone? Rami, let's go to Rami. Rami Aman.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Joseph. I'm here today for Roni Keidar. Once I received the email last week that you are interviewing or inviting Roni Keidar, because of that, I'm here. Not only Rami Aman from Gaza, but many Palestinians from Gaza trust that wherever Roni Keidar is, so we are there. I'm here not to ask Roni anything. I'm here to support Roni. We are not talking about Hamas. We are not talking about Netanyahu. We are bringing people together and invite them together and bringing them together and believing in both sides together. We are not wasting our times. We are doing very great work. So Roni Keidar, please keep going. You have my support, and you have a lot of support from Gaza, not just from the people who are outside Gaza, from the people who lose their parents and their kids inside Gaza. So we are
Rami,
talking
how do you
about
know,
the
how do you
situation.
know Roni?
I knew Roni because I was in Gaza, organized peace initiatives. Like now in June, for example, 2019, I remember that we invited hundreds of people, Gazans and Israelis, to ride their bicycles together. Maybe all of you were like just talking on Zoom or just blaming each other, but we were brave enough to do that when we were inside Gaza. And we will make peace if there is Hamas, if there is no Hamas. I'm suffering from any speech calling that let's eliminate Hamas first and then we will make peace. We need to end the war now, calling for the release of the hostages. Now, for example, in the morning, I woke up and, sorry, Roni, maybe I heard in the news that 3 Israeli hostages dead. 2 of them, Keidar family, I don't know if they are your relatives or no, but every day when I'm, following the names of the hostages inside Gaza who kidnapped and killed, I'm following the names because I know a lot of people in Be'eri and in Tel Aviv working together with the Palestinians. So please, without blaming each other, do something. I'm in the same time in another meeting, and all of these meetings just talking about blaming each other. Let's bring people together. Let's bring enemies together. And thank you, Joseph, to invite Roni. She is a real peace activist. I'm here partner inside Gaza. Yes, I'm in Egypt, but I'm on my way to Gaza. And thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Rami.
Yeah.
And I think we're going now over 2.5 hours, so it's time to end this. I want to thank Roni so much for your time and your generosity,
Thank
for
you very
coming
much.
and having an honest, fair discussion, even though you had some criticism, but it's okay. I want to thank all of you for coming and supporting and thinking about the issues that are being presented. Hopefully, we'll see you in more simulations in the future until we are able to actually make this thing a reality. It's not far. It's not far. It's very easy now that we have internet and we can vote on the internet and we can recruit people on the internet. Trust me, it's not that difficult. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rani.
All right.
Thank you, Joseph.
Rani.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rami.